When something new comes along, does it need to be better quality? You're listening to the Master Your Lens podcast, episode 162.
Hey, John Lee Dumas here, the founder and host of EO Fire, and welcome to the Master Your Lens podcast, the photography podcast dedicated to sharing inspiring stories, technical tips, and powerful secrets to help you become a better photographer. And now, your host, Matthew Jordan Smith.
Hello, Photography Nation. Wow, what a week I've had. It's May 20th, 2020, and many people around the world are starting to come out of shelter in place. But not everyone. And there's a sense of caution all around the world, actually. It has been a pretty rough 3 months. Our life is about getting out, connecting with people, photographing people. And it's kind of hard to do that when you are quarantined, told to stay 6 feet away. And in most cases, just stay home and stay away from everybody. How in the world can you shoot, take pictures when you can't even be around people? Art always finds a way. And this week, I did something brand new, something I've never done before until last Wednesday. I did my first virtual photo shoot. Actually, I've done 3 over the past week. My first subject, first one ever, was in Maryland. Then my next one was in France. And then yesterday, I photographed a celebrity, an actor in the Hamptons, East Hampton, New York. And I did all of this while I am here in Tokyo. Now today, I am so excited to talk about this because it is something new. But before we dive into that, I want to talk about the times in our lives when something brand new has come along and how people have reacted to it. Maybe you were around when everyone was only shooting film. Maybe you weren't. But for those who were, do you remember the first time you heard about digital photography? I'm going to be honest, when I first heard about it, I was not a fan. I loved shooting film. And the first pictures I saw, taken with a digital camera, I wasn't a fan at all. I didn't like the quality. I loved the feeling of film. And I was one of those people who said, this will never replace the quality of film. And I swore I would never, ever try it. Now, this was around 2002, 2003. Fast forward to today, the whole world is shooting digital. Is it better than film? Well, the jury's been deliberating on that for a long time. And some feel the jury is still out. That debate on quality is not new. When was the last time you played an actual album? Not an MP3, but an LP, an album. Last year, an album was released of Aretha Franklin from 1972. The label sent me a CD, and they sent me the vinyl album. Now, I didn't have a record player, but I got one, and I played that album. Now, this is an album where I've heard all the music for years. But as I played that old recording of that vinyl album, I was blown away. The quality was insanely amazing. I heard sounds that I'd never heard before, and I couldn't stop playing the album. Now, mind you, I played this CD on my headphones with my earbuds over and over again, but still, the quality of that vinyl, you can't touch it. And I'd forgotten about that. So think about that. Which one is better quality? An old-fashioned vinyl album, or what you hear every day through your earbuds on your smartphone. When something is new, does it need to be better quality to catch on and take off? Not necessarily. Very often, as we have seen as photographers, it's about the convenience, being able to see something right away, to send it right away, making it easier. Very often, convenience wins out. Not always, but sometimes. So here we are in this new world order. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know when this pandemic, is going away. I mean, really going away. So what do we do in the meantime? I mean, as photographers, what do we do? Do we stop shooting? I've spoken to a lot of my friends who are photographers, and everyone's asking the same question. What are you doing? I've done many Zoom calls, as I'm sure many of you have as well, and we talk about what we're doing or not doing. But today, I want to talk about what I've done in the past week. Last week this time, on the podcast, I talked about something I was preparing to do for the very first time. And now today, I want to share that experience. I'm talking about remote photography, something I was not aware of a month ago, but has all of a sudden become a topic photographers around the world are talking about. Now, I'm going to admit, when I first heard about this, I said there's no way I'm going to ever shoot this way. I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't for me. That was my first reaction. But then, after thinking about it more, and thinking about what I've seen happen in the past, I had to pause and say, wait a minute, don't be so fast to say no. Let's at least try it out. So this week, that's exactly what I've done. I did my first shoot ever, my first remote photo shoot, exactly 1 week ago today. Now, for those who don't know, I live in Tokyo, Japan, but I have clients, friends, models, subjects all over the world. And a model that I know in New York City approached me about doing a shoot. So we got together on Zoom and did our first shoot together. Now, right away, I talked about this on my Instagram. And the first response I got was from a photographer saying, I would never do this. I love the connection of being in a room and shooting with people in reality. And I get that because I feel the same way. There's nothing that replaces that connection of being in a room, feeling that real connection. We all want that, but we don't want to die to do that. So what's an alternative? Do you just stop shooting altogether? No way. We have to pivot and find new ways. Is remote photography just a trend? Will it last? I don't know. But I've watched people say things are trends for a long time. Things that came around that never went away. Like hip-hop music. Like reality TV. It's been around for a very long time. And many thought, oh, this reality TV thing, it'll only be around for a season or two. I know we all want to get back to normal, but very often when there's a shift in the world, we never get back to the old normal. It's usually a new normal. But for now, let's get back to this whole thing about remote photography. After I did my first shoot, I was more excited about this than I thought I would be. After my first photo shoot, my first remote shoot, I must say I was intrigued. I wanted to do it again and again and again. So I got on the phone with friends and said, hey, let's do a photo shoot. Now here's the crazy thing. Almost everyone who I contacted was intrigued about it. Now, yes, at first there's apprehension. What is a remote photo shoot? Somebody's in France, somebody's in the Caribbean, someone's in Asia. You are separated by thousands of miles. How can you do a photo shoot? Now, this is still brand new, and we are all still trying to figure it out. And with anything that's brand new, you need to test to find out what works for you. But through this testing phase, I have to remind myself not to get caught up on the quality, because I've seen what's happened in the past, and I've learned those lessons. I've heard all the arguments of people screaming, no, this will never, ever work. And not just from people, but from big companies. Remember Kodak? When something is new, people get excited about it. And in this past week, I've watched that happen. There's a buzz in the air, and we all need to pay attention. If you think about this, if you really think about it, it can open up some really amazing opportunities. Forget about what we have right now. Forget about the infrastructure we have right now. In terms of remote photography, there is no infrastructure around it yet. But can there be? Now that's exciting. The possibilities of what it can be. Imagine if you could do a shoot in your home, in your studio, wherever you are in your state, but be hired by people anywhere in the world. You can be hired by a client in Paris, a client in London, a client in California while you are living in Boston. Think about what that does to your bottom line, what it opens you up to. When you think about it in that way, this is very exciting, but you got to take the blinders off and just be open because, yes, we have a great opportunity right in front of us right now. Now, I know a lot of photographers are going to be caught up on this one thing of quality. Is the quality there? Right now, no, it's not there. But don't get stuck there. This is the beginning of something. And that is the exciting part. Now, let me tell you about my next two shoots. After the first one, I was giddy and excited to figure out how I can do this better. So I called a model who I know who lives in France. I've shot her many times over the last 10 years. Now, the funny thing is, she is from Tokyo, but she lives in France now. And here I am, American, but living in Tokyo. So I asked her to do a shoot. She was so excited because, for those who don't know, in France, lockdown was way more serious than it was in the States or even in Tokyo. To go outside in France, you had to have a letter stating where you were going. To go out, you risked being fined. It was a very serious lockdown. This month that has ended, but still, there's apprehension about going out. Fear just doesn't go away that easily. But she has been locked down for quite a while and yearning to get out, like many of us, looking forward to getting out and doing what we do. So the idea of doing a remote photo shoot was very appealing to her. So the first thing we did was we did a Zoom call together and looked around her space. I wanted to find out what's a good area to shoot in her home. I want to see the light. Where is the light coming from? I wanted to know also what time of day it was. What's the light during that time of day? Now, as a model, she doesn't think about any of these things. But for the photographer, we need to think about all of this stuff because as a remote shoot, we're both working off devices. The device may be both of us on computers. It may be both of us on an iPad, or she could be using a phone. These are all the different options. And of course, there are more, but that's the basic to start. Two people on a device. On the photo side, I used my Nikon Z7, and I am going to photograph my screen, my computer screen. Or another option would be to connect to my TV and shoot my TV screen. I want to find out which one's better. I also wanted to find out which is better in terms of lenses. What's the best lens to use? After I did my test, we set up a time to do the real shoot. And that's when it became fun. The shoot was absolutely amazing. Now, I'm not talking about in terms of quality. What I'm talking about is the connection of shooting. Just a photographer and a subject connecting this way, brand new. No one's done it before, or very few have done it. But it is a new experience. And both the model and the photographer, we both had an amazing time doing this shoot. Now I'm excited, so I call up more people and schedule shoots. The next person I call was a celebrity, and I'm telling him about what I've just done. And he gets excited because, like everybody else, everybody has been locked in, on quarantine, on shelter in place, and itching to do something creative. So again, we set up a time for us to get together on Zoom and just look around the place. Now, this guy's a good friend of mine. We've known each other for decades. So we first connect to do a look around his place. He's in East Hampton, and I'm looking around his place. I'm looking at the time of day there in New York to find out what's a good time to shoot. So I want to find out the light at a certain time of day. I want to find out what devices he has and figure out what's the best one to use to connect. We schedule our first shoot together on last Sunday. We set the time. It's his morning, my evening. We put it together. We're all set to go. And the time comes to connect on Zoom. And when he first comes on, something doesn't seem right. I can't see him. Now, he was not new to Zoom. We both have been using Zoom for quite a while. We've done Zoom calls with friends before, so I knew that wasn't an issue about not knowing how to use the platform. But something wasn't working. And for an hour, we tried to connect. Nothing worked. Then I said, let me go and check out what's going on online. Let me just do a fast. So I did a fast check on Google, and sure enough, the first thing that popped up, Zoom outage. It seems last Sunday there was a lot going on, especially around commencement addresses. Everybody seemed to be using some type of video conferencing, and the popular one is Zoom right now, and Zoom crashed. So we decided just to give it up for the day and try it again on a weekday. So yesterday we got back together and did it, and everything went smoothly. I do still want to talk about the importance of testing. Before we did our shoot, we'd done a test to find out the best room to shoot in, a test to find out where the light was good, because let's face it, the average person doesn't have artificial light. So in this case, I have to use artificial light. But the average person can't tell about good light. Yes, they can tell if there's light in the room. But light in the room and good light are two very different things. So we're going from room to room, trying to find the best light in the place. But then I'm noticing something else. And this is why, as a photographer, you need to be aware of everything. He has on a white shirt, and he's using an iPhone. So I want to see the camera from the front of the iPhone versus the camera from the back of the iPhone. And there is a difference. Then I had him use an iPad, and we did the same thing to find out which is best. And then lastly, we went and looked at his computer, a laptop. Through all of the different devices, surprisingly, the iPad was the best. So still, something looked off to me. So I asked him if he could change his shirt from a white shirt to a different color. So he put on a gray shirt, a dark gray shirt. And that made all the difference. And here's why. Those devices, iPhone, iPad, computer, those cameras are taking in the entire situation and giving an exposure. It's like having your camera on auto. Those devices can't think. And him having on the white t-shirt threw the camera lens off. When he put on the dark gray shirt, it was a much better picture. Testing really works. Now, as I'm recording this podcast, I just got a message from a listener. And this is perfect timing. This comes from Cheryl, and this is what just came in a minute ago. Cheryl says, "Hi, Matthew. I did the virtual photo shoot with my iPhone a couple of weeks ago, but I want to try the virtual with the computer like you did. Can you share a few tips as to what you did? I have 2 people who want to do virtual photo shoots this weekend and one tomorrow." Thank you for that message, Cheryl. So right off the bat, I want to talk about how I did my shoot. I am using an actual camera to shoot my screen. I know some people are doing virtual photo shoots with an iPhone to a screen, or they're actually doing screenshots on their computer. Those are definitely options, but I am not doing that. I'm using an actual camera, my Nikon Z7, because I want to have control over my exposure, control over my aperture, my ISO, my shutter speed. I need that in this situation more than ever. You want total control. Also, I do want to try to at least get the best quality I can at this time. And for that, I want to shoot on a real camera and have the best files that I can work with. So Cheryl, to start, use a real camera so you can have total control over not only creating your images, but in all the post work you'll do. Tip number 2, do a virtual scout, where you actually have a call before your photo shoot with your subject to find out what's the best time of day in their location. What is the light during a certain time of day? You need to know that. And number 3, find out the best lens, your best camera lens, in terms of shooting your screen. For me, that has been a macro. I've been using my 60mm macro for all my virtual photo shoots. And that has been my favorite lens in this situation. Now, this is very different from when I'm shooting in a real life situation where my favorite lenses may be an 85 or a 105 or a longer type of lens. In this situation, the macro really works nice. So to date, I've done 3 photo shoots, all virtually. One subject who I thought was in New York City, but moved away to Maryland to get away from being at the epicenter of the crisis. That was my very first photo shoot last week this time. That was my very first photo shoot last Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. My very first virtual photo shoot. My second one was with a subject in France, and that was amazing. And not just in terms of the images that we captured, but in how it made both of us feel. Then my third photo shoot, where we attempted to do the shoot on Sunday and had to reschedule, that shoot also was absolutely amazing. And it took place yesterday. So in total, 3 photo shoots, all virtual, all with people thousands of miles away from me. We made that connection virtually. In terms of the tools I used my laptop, my Nikon Z7 with a 60mm lens. And for all of my subjects, they were on some type of device, an iPad, a laptop, or a smartphone. I have also used different platforms. I've used Zoom. I've used FaceTime. Which is better? I'm still undecided on that right now, but I do love Zoom. And one great thing about Zoom is that Zoom records the entire shoot automatically. So I also get content I can share online if I want to. But now let me talk about the other part of this that a lot of people may overlook, and it is so important. This process of doing the remote shoots, the virtual photo shoot, what I have discovered is that it's making people feel alive again. I'm talking about the photographer and the subject. There is something special that happens on a photo shoot. It's that connection. It's making people feel comfortable, making them feel beautiful or handsome. It's documenting what's happening right now. You in your home, them in their home, no matter where they are in the world. That's kind of special. I know a lot of us have been doing different types of virtual meetings right now. But there's something very special about a virtual photo shoot. People are getting excited about this, and they want to know more. I've felt that on each and every photo shoot that I've done in this past week. But let me tell you what happened yesterday, less than 12 hours ago. So my last subject yesterday was a well-known actor. He's been in several movies, and years ago he was in a Madonna video that got a lot of attention. The video was Like a Prayer, and he was the Black Jesus. The actor's name is Leon, and he's one of my best friends. You may know him from some of his movies. A very famous one is The 5 Heartbeats. Well, Leon was also excited about doing this photo shoot, and so was I. So we shot and got great images. You know that feeling we get as you're doing the photo shoot. You feel something special is happening, like you're getting something that you couldn't get any other way. We're getting amazing images. So at the end of the photo shoot, Leon tells me he was on a call with a producer before our shoot. And he said, "Oh, I'm about to do a shoot." And the producer says, "How?" And he says, "I'm doing a virtual photo shoot." Now, this producer is now intrigued. How are you doing this? And he says, "Well, the photographer is in Tokyo." She's even more intrigued. And then he says who the photographer is. And this producer says, "Oh my God, I know him. When you finish the photo shoot, can you all call me and let's do a group Zoom call?" Well, that's exactly what happened. We all got on a call together, and she's excited because there are clients out there who are looking for something new, and this is exciting. Long story short, we have another group Zoom to discuss the images and go over them together. You never know what can happen. So be open to doing something new. And right now, the new hot thing is virtual photo shoots. We don't know the future. There's no way. We do know the past and the lessons from the past. Now, before we close, I want you to think about this. And this one hits home to everybody who is a photographer today. We all blew off the iPhone when it first came out because we knew the quality of our camera was far better than an iPhone. But it hasn't been about quality. It's been about convenience. Think about that. All right, Photography Nation, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Master Your Lens podcast. I have a lot of editing to do today for my meeting later on this afternoon. And you have a lot to think about. Don't forget the lessons from the past. There is no infrastructure right now for virtual photography, but that doesn't mean that can't change. All right, Photography Nation, thank you for your time. Always dream big. Stay safe. Bye for now.